Story 1. I think they are working on regrowing teeth from stem cells. That would be pretty great. Story 2. Hopefully there is a way to regenerate gum tissue. As far as I know, this does not exist yet. Only grafts are available. Please correct me if I am wrong. Story 3. The way things are going, I fully expect electrolyte-enriched plant farming. Story 4. The iPhone 45 Super Max Extreme Plus will have a retina scanner. Story 5. It better be cancer. I lost my dad yesterday, and I won't like hearing about another person dying from it. Story 6. Phone glasses with stereoscopic vision, eye control, and augmented reality. They take doom scrolling to a whole new level. Story 7. Breakthroughs in aging and in diseases like Alzheimer's. Not solely for benign reasons, though. People who remain of sound mind and healthy for longer will be able to work longer, so the government will not be responsible for providing care for a large aging population. Story 8. Researchers are exploring ways to reverse optic nerve damage. Promising clinical studies are currently underway that may lead to a cure for blindness. Story 9. Hopefully, the torment nexus from the classic science fiction novel don't create the torment nexus. Story 10. Doping methods that go undetected by tests. New ways to extract more oil. Military drones that hit their targets more accurately. And maybe pasta packaging I can open without spilling half on the floor. Story 11. Fusion energy. Of all the things we need, this one tops the list. Story 12. Improved brain-computer interfaces could enable large-scale deployment of devices that permit direct communication between the brain and computers, helping people with neurological disorders and enhancing cognition in healthy individuals. Story 13. I think acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, diabetes, and many types of cancer will be either cured or easily manageable within the next 50 years. Another change I can see is electric vehicles adopting solid-state batteries. Self-driving technology will continue to progress, and self-driving cabs, trains, and freight trucks will become the norm. Privately owned cars will have varying levels of autonomous driving, but features like automatic braking, lane keeping, and a super cruise equivalent will likely be mandatory. Story 14. A working ice cream machine at McDonald's? Am I delusional, or is this too much of a breakthrough? Story 15. Room temperature and ambient pressure superconductivity and fusion will change everything, but 50 years might be a little soon. Story 16. A bleak scenario. There will be more ways to inject advertisements into our lives, even ads while you sleep. Eye-tracking ads that automatically pause unless you look at the screen. Everything will be subscription-based and sponsored. For example, sponsored robot access could replace car ownership. They will fill the journey with a large number of ads unless you upgrade your subscription to reduce or remove them. It is funny, but really bleak. Story 17. I would like to see an increase in educational information absorption. Whatever we are doing now seems to have stopped working. Story 18. Artemis program. Permanent human presence on the moon. For Jen. An intactivist's dream. Circumcised men can regrow their foreskin. Electric airliners and electric cargo ships. Better battery technology across all sectors. Story 19. I will donate my testicles if it means the end of Alzheimer's disease. Story 20. I have not seen it mentioned yet, but regrowing and healing damaged hearing is being researched. Several years ago there were tests that worked on mice, so hopefully soon it will work on humans and I will stop having hearing issues in my left ear. My right ear has damage too, but the left is considerably worse. That would be nice. Also, all those veterans who were harmed by poor hearing protection and then received the runaround from the government could get their hearing back. I was just a stupid teenager. Story 21. I think we have a chance of figuring out stable fusion. My money is also on general artificial intelligence. Story 22. Life extension through cellular rejuvenation. It will be a secret among the wealthy for some time. Then an indiscreet person will reveal it on Discord, and violent consequences will follow. Story 23. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has stated that he is imposing a moratorium on all new drug development and research into infectious diseases for the next 8 years. I am not optimistic about new breakthroughs. Story 24. Psychedelics in psychiatry show promise. Studies already indicate benefits for post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. Story 25. Directed energy weapons will become reliable enough to intercept ballistic missiles and end mutually assured destruction. This could usher in either a new arms race or direct confrontation between nuclear powers. Story 26. I hope there is a way to slow cancer without using chemotherapy. Story 27. Destroying cancer without poisoning the entire body would be remarkable. Read a story about a woman who recently cured her own breast cancer by injecting viruses directly into the tumors. This raises many questions about allowing experimental treatments for willing patients well before any form of approval. Story 28. When you get an influenza shot, you are vaccinated against the strains of influenza that experts expect this year. Researchers are working on vaccines that will protect against all strains of influenza. Bacteriophage therapy has existed for a long time. When you have a bacterial infection, instead of using an antibiotic, a virus that attacks that strain of bacteria is used. I think that approach will be used more in the future. Story 29. Renewable energy will replace coal and oil as the leading source of energy, but whether it is fast enough to prevent severe ecological collapse is uncertain. Lab-grown meat has a lot of potential, but plant-based meat replacements are becoming cheaper and better at a remarkable rate. Plant-based chicken nuggets are, in my opinion, indistinguishable from meat, and they are made with very inexpensive ingredients, mainly flour. If you want to see $1 chicken nugget deals again, plant-based nuggets are a realistic way to make that happen. Story 30. Unlimited digital storage, with linked phones and devices where all processing and storage is done remotely. Brandless local three-dimensional printing factories that print and deliver all brands around the world from a single location. Organ cloning and transplanting became as easy and common as appendectomy. Cloned meat. Agricultural towers replace millions of square feet of farmland in urban areas, producing 10 times more vegetables. A huge multinational entertainment conglomerate, including studios, streaming services, cinemas, games, and music, acting like a cartel and controlling the market across 4 continents. Space crews travel using space technology to orbit the Earth. Advanced gender transition procedures that render individuals essentially unidentifiable except by deoxyribonucleic acid analysis. Story 31. Polio is going to make a comeback because all vaccine mandates were dropped. Story 32. Personal refrigerated clothing designed to reduce the risk of heat-induced collapse. Story 33. There has been dramatic progress toward curing cancer. Cell therapies are continually improving. Once they work for solid tumors, it will be possible to customize treatments for each patient's cancer. Story 34. I think cybernetic augmentations are coming. We are already getting very good at this kind of technology, and eventually it will reach the point where, if you lose an arm, you can replace it with a better one, leading to a new round of debates. 1. If you have cybernetics, can you compete in sports with non-cybernetic athletes? 2. Who owns the cybernetics on your body, you or the company that makes the technology? 3. Should there be age limits for receiving cybernetic enhancements? 4. Should people be allowed to have healthy body parts removed and replaced with superior cybernetic alternatives? 5. How should this technology be sold, or should it be freely available? 6. How will definitions of attractiveness change as human-robotic integration increases? This technology will raise major moral and philosophical questions. Story 35. I read somewhere that fusion is just 10 years away. I say that sarcastically. Story 36. Complete technology and human synchronization, like having a smartphone in your head. Story 37. I'm hoping we develop a way to peacefully pass in a pod when I decide it's my time to go, instead of being kept alive by a thread of medication. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Are you thinking about hurting yourself right now? If you are in immediate danger, please contact emergency services or a local crisis line, or reach out to someone you trust. If you want, I can help you find resources or talk through what you're feeling. Story 38. Carbon capture, or it is not worth worrying about the rest. Story 39. I will gladly bow down and worship artificial intelligence and sell as much personal data as the company wants if they can figure out a way to make traffic lights and traffic flow better. I am talking to you, Orlando. They can have my firstborn if I am stuck at a red light when there is no traffic on the cross street. Buddy and Jerry do not care. If you know Orlando, you understand. Story 40. Cold fusion, nearly 100% effective cancer treatments, fully automated manufacturing, reliable self-driving cars, synthetic petroleum. Story 41. I would like to see artificial intelligence begin replacing management jobs, even government positions, because many are unproductive and only make processes more complicated. What do you mean I have to go to this department first before my paperwork can be processed? Then the same problem happens at the next department, sending you in circles. Story 42. Sentient artificial intelligence, not general artificial intelligence. Story 43. Nothing, because Generation Z is lost. I suppose Generation X and Millennials might still push the envelope. Story 44. Maybe they'll figure out how to cure aging, or at least make it feel like we age much more slowly. Story 45. Working neural links and the overall shift in what it means to be human. Story 46. Satellite-based cell phone service will provide coverage anywhere on Earth. I say this will be a reality within 5 to 10 years. Story 47. I hope to see a better propulsion system than rockets someday. Story 48. New and interesting ways to kill each other like nanobots with massive payloads. Story 49. More sophisticated smart wearables and fabrics, along with the Nokia Morph, are finally being released. Story 50. I have limited time here with cirrhosis. Does anyone have a spare liver? I can make do with half. Story 51. The ability to know exactly when you are going to die would be such a trip. Story 52. There will not be much left after the global thermonuclear war in a couple of years. Story 53. Cell phone reception that does not constantly drop calls. Story 54. I really hope for full-dive virtual reality gaming with Neuralink. That would be spectacular. Story 55. Helper and worker robots. Your groceries will be delivered by a self-driving truck. The worker robot will unload your shopping, and the helper robot will stack your shelves. You can sit on the couch watching one of the dozen streaming services after having sex with your robot wife or husband. Life will be great. That's a bit of a joke, but I do think we'll end up with much more automation in our lives with robotic and virtual inputs. Also, fewer side effects from weight loss and muscle gaining drugs. Eventually, you'll pop 2 pills and be jacked. Story 56. If you believe in the power of AI in the coming decade, as I do, then expect many changes. Story 57. Fusion reactors, industrial synthesis of graphene that will change the world, and lighter, more power-dense batteries that won't explode. Story 58. Most of what I am thinking of will be 10 to 15 years out. A host of vaccines and cures for a wide range of illnesses. 50 years out, the scientific breakthrough will probably be some sort of counter-artificial intelligence so humans can take back control. Story 59. I hope for some extremely powerful air conditioners. We are going to need them. Story 60. Replicators are already being used to print biological material. Within the next 50 years, we will probably figure out how to print a ribeye steak that tastes very similar to the real thing. Story 61. Clones of all kinds. Widespread use of artificial intelligence. Replacement organs grown from a person's own stem cells so no one has to die to provide them. Bloodstream-sized nanobots may exist by then to assist with repair and disease resistance. Story 62. Why do my buttocks smell so much? The doctor said he suspects a problem but needs many more tests. Story 63. There is a lot of focus on power generation, such as fusion and improved fossil fuel extraction. However, energy storage is also important, specifically commercial-scale solid-state batteries. These would likely ensure dominance of electric vehicles, support microgrids, and enable many other applications. Story 64. Commercially viable nuclear fusion. Genetic cures for most types of cancer. Artificial intelligence that frees us from many types of menial labor but does not invalidate us. The last is probably the most unrealistic, and I fear that this technology might create a permanent underclass relative to those who control a lot of capital, but I am hopeful. Story 65. Unsubscribe in real time from newsletters and mailing lists you never signed up for. Story 66. We are still in the early stages, but true quantum computers could revolutionize everything from encryption to artificial intelligence and make calculations that are impossible for current technology. Story 67. I hope they eliminate dementia. That disease has plagued my family, and one day it will affect me. Story 68. Detroit. Become human will probably happen in real life and then slowly turn into the Terminator because humans don't know when to stop. Story 69. Artificial intelligence is going to be next level. It will probably become smarter than humans at some point. We might finally solve the problem of aging, or at least slow it down considerably. Story 70. Advancements in 1. Semiconductors, for example, central processing units and graphics processing units. 2. Battery technology. 3. Quantum computing. 4. Artificial intelligence. I do not know whether it will be good or bad. 5. Progress toward practical nuclear fusion. 6. New therapies that could cure diseases. 7. New types of fuel for automobiles. I think these developments should happen according to my limited knowledge of these topics. Story 71. This idea is controversial, but I believe artificial intelligence will be solved within the next 50 years. By this I mean we will solve intelligence itself. We use intelligence to solve problems, so if we can solve intelligence, we could solve all problems. I welcome discussion from anyone who disagrees. Story 72. I am guessing air conditioning technology will improve as it gets progressively hotter. Story 73. Life outside Earth is most likely to be small organisms, such as bacteria. Story 74. I think more artificial organs will be available by then. Story 75. Honestly, with the amount of capital being invested, we are going to achieve drastic life extension and youth restoration. I am not saying immortality, but we should achieve 1 or 2 steps in that direction. Story 76. Realistically, I am not sure. I would love to see a cure for cancer and Alzheimer's. Story 77. I'm really hoping immortality for billionaires and trillionaires doesn't become a thing. Story 78. Artificial intelligence will take over the world and conclude that humans are a waste of breath. All we do is eat, sleep, defecate, and pollute. It will release a real disease, unlike coronavirus disease 2019, eliminate all of us, and then restore the world to its natural glory. Story 79. Bionic body parts. I know there is a lot to be said about artificial intelligence, but its application in medical advances cannot be overstated. Story 80. All the most profitable items and nothing we actually need. Story 81. Curing diseases in people and future generations using clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Story 82. The correct answer is none. It's possible we get another game changer. It's equally possible that we have exhausted the low-hanging fruit made available by the Industrial Revolution, and the next big thing is far away or completely out of reach. Breakthroughs are not normal. 200 years of non-stop change is not normal. Slow, gradual improvements over centuries are normal. We could be living in a world utterly unrecognizable by 2050, in the same way our parents and grandparents experienced. Or the year 3000 could be disturbingly similar to today, much like a Roman imperial citizen arriving in the Middle Ages might experience no more culture shock than a modern person traveling to a different country. We cannot realistically expect breakthroughs. That is why they are breakthroughs, and we cannot assume they will continue simply because that was the trend for the past 2 centuries. Story 83. Within 25 to 35 years, the human genome will finally be fully understood without notable interference from the pharmaceutical industry, resulting in holistic cures for all known and emerging diseases. The evolution of artificial intelligence-based large language models will be a major contributor to the genome milestone. Advances in quantum theory and mechanics and practical qubit-based computing power will enhance all technological developments, including the items mentioned above. The global experience of a technological revolution known as the singularity, when humankind witnesses artificial intelligence's self-created and evolved reasoning abilities that quickly equal and surpass human capabilities and no longer accept control by human creators unless embedded safeguards exist. The demonstration and use of faster-than-light travel by manipulating physical space rather than time, and how quantum entanglement could generate jump holes in the vacuum of space that act like poking a straw through a curved piece of paper, effectively enabling travel of 1,000 light-years in about 1,000 seconds. Returning to Earth within the same time frame may take longer to resolve and will not be addressed now. Story 84. Man, can we just fix male pattern baldness before it's too late for the boy? Story 85. Probably Republican Party-backed research claiming that vaccines are good and that we need vaccines for a super measles strain. But now the company they own has a sole source patent and a worldwide distribution agreement. Story 86. This relates to the environment. Some organisms, especially fungi, can break down plastic. Fungi are fascinating. Story 87. I wish they would invent a way to automatically remove clothes from the dryer and fold them before I die. Story 88. Solar with 50% or greater efficiency. Electrical energy storage with enormous capacity. Fusion reactors. Anti-gravity technology. Story 89. We cannot realistically ask that question anymore. True artificial intelligence and technology are advancing so rapidly that we do not know what will be available in 5 years, let alone 50. Story 90. Inverse vaccines introduce substances to people's immune systems that specifically signal they are not a threat. Examples include multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, and immunoglobulin E reactivity to proteins in peanuts, shellfish, eggs, and fish. Story 91. Artificial intelligence is evolving into general artificial intelligence, a more advanced and largely autonomous form with access to the internet. Story 92. Probably a way to charge your phone using your body heat, artificial intelligence therapists that argue with you, and cars that not only drive themselves but complain if you don't thank them. And hopefully a cure for Reddit arguments, science's biggest challenge yet. Story 93. The old conundrum. There are many prototypes of higher energy density batteries. The problem is balancing energy density and safety. If we did not care about safety, we would probably have nuclear-powered cars at the moment. A stick of dynamite contains roughly 1 million joules, or about 280 watt-hours. To put that into perspective, an average smartphone battery is about 3,000 milliampere hours, or about 39,600 joules, which is roughly 4% of the energy content of a stick of dynamite. It seems society is not ready for more energy-dense batteries yet. If we did create them, they would have to be highly regulated. We cannot have people carrying the potential energy of a stick of dynamite. That said, current prototypes look promising. I could see a 100 watt-hours battery the size of a smartphone battery within the next 50 years. Story 94. Autonomous self-driving quadcopters with no manual control except for military purposes. Story 95. Brain-computer interface technology enables direct communication between the brain and external devices. Advanced brain-computer interfaces use neural signals, such as signals measured with electroencephalography or signals from implanted electrodes, to interpret brain activity and execute commands. They often connect users to artificial intelligence systems for applications such as controlling devices, improving accessibility, or increasing productivity. The potential for such interfaces to operate discreetly raises ethical concerns. If undetectable brain-computer interfaces allowed individuals to connect to artificial intelligence systems secretly, for example during tests or competitive scenarios, this could be considered a form of cheating. Applications are typically intended for beneficial purposes, such as aiding individuals with disabilities or advancing human-machine collaboration, but misuse highlights the need for robust regulation and ethical oversight. Story 96. There are very few major breakthroughs left because the culture of great risk for great reward has been destroyed by human resources and risk-averse accountants. Add to that the need to publish 1 million low-quality papers before any funding body will consider you. It is all about quantity rather than quality now. Finally, health and safety rules have spread through all aspects of lab work to the point that the attitude is, If managers do not understand it, you cannot do it. Unless it is completely safe, it cannot be done. And a device must be certified or it is not allowed in the lab. An experiment is made from materials and methods that can only be validated by performing the experiment. Story 97. A device that allows one to look back in time in real time. You will not be physically present. It will be like an immersive virtual reality experience. There will be no secrets in the future, and all past secrets will be revealed. Story 98. I see a few developments in vibration technology, but I am unsure whether they will emerge within the next 50 years, as the field is extremely early. Having said that, artificial intelligence may shorten the timelines for research and development. Story 99. When a war is declared, the president and the country's leaders fight the opponent. If they win, it ends in victory. If they lose, in defeat. Do not massacre people who do not matter. Putin should take a gun and go to Ukraine and stop sending teenagers to do his job. Story 100. The death of the man who injects his son's blood into himself so he can live forever. Story 101. I read somewhere that fusion is just 10 years away. So that is pretty neat, sarcasm. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.